October 23, 1942. Dawn breaks over the endless dunes of El Alamein, Egypt, where the air already shimmers like a furnace, choking with dust and the acrid stink of diesel. A Willys Jeep grinds to a halt, its tires spinning uselessly in the soft, treacherous sand, sinking deeper with every desperate rev of the engine. Sergeant Harlan Bronson wipes the sweat from his brow, his grease-streaked hands trembling not from fear, but from the bone-rattling vibration of the machine he's sworn to keep alive. Around him, the North African desert stretches like an unforgiving ocean, waves of golden grit swallowing everything in their path: tanks, trucks, men. You can almost feel the heat radiating off the metal, blistering skin, as Axis Panzers rumble in the distance, their tracks chewing through the same hellish terrain with mocking ease. This isn't just sand, it's a killer. The North African campaign has turned into a brutal chess game, where Field Marshal Erwin Rommel's Afrika Korps dances across the Sahara like ghosts, outmaneuvering the Allies at every turn. British 8th Army troops under General Bernard Montgomery huddle in their foxholes, rations dwindling as supply lines stretch thin over hundreds of miles of impassable wasteland. Jeeps, those nimble American workhorses designed for muddy European fields, bog down relentlessly here. Tires deflate under the punishing sun, suspensions snap like brittle bones against hidden rocks. Scouts vanish into mirages, their vehicles entombed in drifts, leaving infantry exposed and artillery starved. Rommel knows this. His Italian and German allies have adapted, their vehicles fitted with wide tracks and balloon tires that float over the dunes. The Allies? They're drowning in the sand. Bronson, a lanky mechanic from rural Kansas, enlisted with the U.S. Army's 1st Armored Division, stares at the stranded Jeep with a mix of frustration and defiance. He's no stranger to fixes. Back home, he jury-rigged tractors during Dust Bowl storms. But this is war. The radio crackles with urgent pleas. We need eyes on those Panzers. Get those scouts moving. Nearby, a British Tommy from the 51st Highland Division curses under his breath, kicking at the Jeep's wheel as if sheer will could free it. The enemy is closing in, their 88mm guns booming like thunder on the horizon. One wrong move, and the entire flank crumbles. Bronson kneels, probing the undercarriage, his mind racing. The standard-issue tires are too narrow, slicing into the sand like knives in butter. Suspensions groan under loads of ammo and water cans, bottoming out on every ripple. As the sun climbs higher, turning the desert into a blazing inferno, Bronson spots a cluster of abandoned Axis supply crates half buried nearby, spoils from a recent skirmish. Inside, wide rubber strips, makeshift sand mats used by Italian engineers. An idea sparks. He grabs a wrench, barking orders to his crew. Strip those tires, we're not letting this bastard desert beat us. The men, sun-scorched and skeptical, fall in line. They reinforce the Jeep's leaf springs with scavenged metal bars, welding them crudely under the relentless glare. Then, the tires. Bronson wraps them in layers of canvas and rubber from the crates, inflating them lower for better flotation. It's rough, untested, but as he fires up the engine, the Jeep lurches forward, clawing its way up a dune that had claimed 3 vehicles already that morning. Word spreads like wildfire through the Allied camps. Montgomery's forces, gearing up for the massive push at El Alamein, watch in awe as Bronson's modified Jeep roars past, kicking up a rooster tail of sand, but never faltering. Scouts pile in, ferrying maps and messages that could tip the scales. But Rommel's scouts report back too, strange Allied vehicles defying the desert. Is this a fluke or the start of something bigger? As the first artillery barrages light up the night sky, Bronson wipes his hands, staring at his creation. Little does he know, this field fix is about to rewrite the rules of desert warfare. But can one man's ingenuity stand against the desert fox's iron fist?
The night of October 24, 1942 descends like a heavy blanket over the El Alamein front line. Artillery flashes illuminate the sky in jagged bursts, the ground trembling under the weight of Montgomery's opening barrage. In a makeshift workshop carved from sandbags and canvas tarps, Sergeant Harlan Bronson works by the dim glow of a shielded lantern. His hands, calloused from years of farm machinery back in Kansas, move with practiced fury. The modified Jeep sits before him like a patient on an operating table, suspension bars reinforced with scavenged Panzer track links, leaf springs doubled up with steel plates pried from wrecked Italian trucks. The tires? That's where the real magic happens. Bronson had remembered stories from the long-range desert group boys, those British ghosts who roamed deep behind enemy lines in their stripped-down Chevrolets and early Jeeps. They talked of balloon tires, wide and soft, deflated just enough to spread the weight like a camel's foot across the shifting sand. No factory had shipped those to the Americans yet, so Bronson improvised. He sliced open captured Italian sand mats, thick rubberized canvas meant for laying under heavy lorries, and wrapped them around the standard 6.0016 tires in overlapping layers. He cinched them tight with wire and boot laces, then let the air out until the sidewalls bulged, creating a wider footprint that refused to sink. The rear axle got extra bracing from a broken half-track's torsion bar. The front shocks cannibalized springs from a wrecked staff car. Crude? Absolutely. But as Bronson torques the last bolt, the Jeep looks different, meaner, ready. Dawn comes fast. A young American scout lieutenant from the 1st Armored Division climbs in beside Bronson, map case clutched white-knuckled. "If this thing bogs down, we're dead meat," he mutters. Bronson just grins, wipes sweat from his eyes, and guns the engine. The Jeep lurches forward, tires gripping where others had failed. They crest the first dune without hesitation, sand spraying in controlled arcs instead of hopeless rooster tails. Behind them, a British patrol from the 7th Armored Division, the Desert Rats, watches open-mouthed. One Tommy shouts, "Bloody hell, Yank, you've turned the bugger into a bloody camel." Word races through the lines faster than any radio. Mechanics from other units swarm Bronson's position, hungry for the secret. He demonstrates again and again. Deflate to 15 psi for soft sand, reinflate on hardpack, reinforce the springs or watch the frame snap. One sergeant from the Royal Army Service Corps adapts the idea to his Bedford trucks, layering canvas belts and adding wooden planks for flotation. But it's the Jeeps that shine brightest. Scouts now dart forward, slipping through minefields and wadis that had claimed entire platoons. They spot Rommel's 15th Panzer Division maneuvering for a counterstrike, relaying coordinates that bring down devastating Hurricane rocket strikes. Yet success breeds danger. Axis reconnaissance planes, those damnable Fieseler Storches, begin circling lower, drawn by the sudden surge in Allied mobility. A German forward observer spots one of Bronson's modified Jeeps tearing across a salt flat, reports crackling over the radio. New enemy light vehicle, unusually fast over soft ground, request artillery. Shells begin to walk closer. Bronson dives for cover as shrapnel pings off his creation's hood. The fix works, but it makes them targets. Montgomery himself gets wind of the Yank mechanic's miracle. He demands a demonstration. As the general staff car pulls up, dust swirling, Bronson feels the weight of eyes on him. One wrong dune and the whole thing could collapse. But the desert is about to test this invention in fire. Rommel, the desert fox, smells the shift in momentum and prepares a desperate armored thrust to break through. Can Bronson's field-born beast keep the Allied scouts alive long enough to turn the tide?
November 2nd, 1942. The second day of Montgomery's massive offensive at El Alamein. The sky is a bruised purple, thick with smoke from burning fuel dumps and the constant roar of 25-pounder guns pounding Axis positions. Sergeant Harlan Bronson's modified Jeep, now nicknamed Sand Devil by the crew, sits low and mean at the edge of a wadi, engine idling like a predator. The reinforced suspension creaks under the weight of extra jerry cans strapped to every spare inch, ammunition boxes lashed tight, and a .5 caliber Browning mounted on a makeshift pintle. Bronson grips the wheel, eyes scanning the horizon where German 88s flash in reply. The order comes crackling over the radio. Recon forward, locate the 21st Panzer's flank, get eyes on those Tigers before they hit our infantry. Bronson nods to the British sergeant riding shotgun, Sergeant Tommy Wilkins from the Desert Rats, who checks the map with a compass that never quite agrees with the magnetic sand. They roll out, tires hissing softly over the hardpack, then dropping into the soft stuff. Where other Jeeps would bury themselves to the axles, Sand Devil floats. The wide, canvas-wrapped tires spread the load like snowshoes, deflated just right at 12 psi. The vehicle climbs a 30-degree dune without hesitation, engine whining but never bogging. They crest the ridge and freeze. Below, a column of Panzer IIIs and IVs snakes through a depression, dust plumes marking their advance. Bronson kills the engine, the sudden silence deafening. Wilkins whispers, "Bloody hell, they're shifting south. If they break through there..." He doesn't finish. Bronson already has the binoculars up, counting tanks, noting the lead element's markings, 15th Panzer Division. The coordinates spill out in hurried shorthand. Wilkins keys the radio, voice steady despite the tremor in his hands. "This is Scout 3. Enemy armor massing grid 478312. Request immediate air support." Minutes stretch like hours. Then the sky answers. Hurricanes scream overhead, rockets streaking down in fiery trails. Explosions bloom across the German column. Tracks shred, turrets jam, crews bail out into the sand. Bronson's fix didn't fire the rockets, but it got the scouts there alive, fast enough to call the strike before the Panzers could maneuver. As the smoke clears, Wilkins slaps Bronson on the back. "You mad bastard. You've just given Monty the edge he needed." Back at the forward base, mechanics swarm like bees. Bronson's method spreads. Every available Jeep gets the treatment. Canvas from supply tents, rubber from captured Italian stores, even old truck inner tubes sliced and layered. One inventive corporal adds wooden runners under the chassis for extra flotation on the worst drifts. The mobility surge is electric. Allied patrols now probe deeper, harassing Rommel's supply lines, spotting artillery positions, evacuating wounded faster than ever before. British lorries follow the Jeep's tracks, staying mobile where they once stalled. But Rommel is no fool. His intelligence reports the new Allied Desert Rats, light vehicles moving like shadows across impossible ground. He orders intensified Luftwaffe sweeps, Messerschmitts strafing anything that moves. One afternoon, as Bronson races back from another scout run, a Bf-109 dives out of the sun. Bullets stitch the sand around them. Bronson swerves hard, the Jeep's low center of gravity and reinforced frame holding as they skid down a dune face. The plane pulls up, frustrated, but the message is clear. Innovation has a price. Every mile gained draws hotter fire. As the battle grinds toward its climax, with Axis forces beginning to crack under the relentless pressure, Bronson's simple field fix has become a quiet revolution. Scouts live longer, supplies reach the front faster, and Montgomery's hammer falls heavier. Yet the Desert Fox still has teeth. A massive counterattack looms, and one man's ingenuity will face its ultimate trial in the shifting sands.
November 11th, 1942. The guns finally fall silent along the El Alamein line. Smoke drifts lazily across the scarred desert, mingling with the sharp tang of cordite and scorched metal. Sergeant Harlan Bronson stands beside Sand Devil, its canvas-wrapped tires caked in days-old dust, the reinforced suspension sagging slightly from the relentless pounding. Around him, Allied troops emerge from their positions. British Tommies, Kiwi infantrymen, Free French gunners, American tankers, all sharing cigarettes and weary grins. The Axis retreat has become a rout. Rommel's forces stream westward, abandoning equipment, fuel dumps, and the myth of their invincibility in the sands they once ruled. Bronson's fix, born in a single desperate afternoon, has rippled outward like a stone dropped in still water. Every forward unit now carries the knowledge: wide flotation, low pressure, improvised reinforcement. Mechanics in the rear echelons replicate it on the fly, using whatever they can scavenge from wrecked Italian lorries, captured German half-tracks, even rubber strips torn from enemy supply parachutes. The long-range desert group, those legendary raiders who've been mastering the deep desert since 1940, adopts the canvas layering technique for their own Chevrolets and the new Willys Jeeps arriving fresh from American shipments. Their patrols push farther, strike harder, vanish deeper, all because the vehicles no longer fear the soft ground that once trapped them. Montgomery's victory dispatch reaches Cairo and London, crediting the sudden surge in mobility as a key factor in breaking the stalemate. Scouts who once crawled now race, supplies that once stalled now flow. Casualties drop as wounded reach aid stations in hours instead of days. Bronson himself receives a quiet commendation, a mention in orders, a handshake from a visiting brass who calls it Yank ingenuity at its finest. He shrugs it off, wiping grease from his hands. "Just kept the wheels turning," he mutters to his crew. But deep down, he knows. One man's hands-on fix helped crack the desert's grip and turn the tide of the entire North African campaign. As the 8th Army surges forward towards Tripoli, the modified jeeps lead the chase. They scout routes through wadis, ferry officers to planning sessions, even haul light artillery pieces where bigger trucks dare not go. Rommel, in his headquarters far to the west, pores over reports of these elusive Allied vehicles, fast, adaptable, unstoppable in the very terrain meant to doom them. The Desert Fox's famous mobility has been matched, then surpassed. The road to Tunisia opens, and with it, the path to Sicily, Italy, and eventually the heart of Europe. Years later, veterans would gather at reunions, swapping stories under desert sunsets that look much the same. They'd speak of the whine of engines over dunes, the way a simple wrap of canvas and wire turned bog down into breakthrough. Bronson's name might fade into footnotes, but his creation endures. The hum of those engines still echoes in the sands, a testament to what one determined mechanic can achieve when the stakes are everything. The war rolls on, but in North Africa, the impossible became routine. One field fix, one unbreakable spirit, and the desert, for once, belonged to those who refused to be beaten by it.
November 4th, 1942. The sun hangs low, a blood-red orb bleeding into the haze over the retreating Axis lines. Sergeant Harlan Bronson's Sand Devil tears across the salt pans south of Tel El Issa, engine howling as it hauls a wounded British gunner toward the field hospital. The man's leg is mangled from shrapnel, but the Jeep doesn't falter, tires wide and soft, suspension flexing over every crater without bottoming out. Bronson shifts gears smoothly, eyes flicking to the rearview mirror where dust clouds mark the pursuit of Rommel's battered Panzers. For the first time in months, the Germans are running. The hum of that engine, once just a mechanic's tool, now sounds like victory. Montgomery's breakthrough has come. After 10 days of grinding attrition, the 8th Army's armor, Sherman's fresh from American factories, has punched through the minefields and wire at the northern corridor. Rommel's supply lines, already stretched to breaking, snap under the relentless pressure. And Bronson's quiet revolution plays its part. Modified jeeps swarm the battlefield like hornets, scouts racing ahead to mark safe paths through the mine belts, ferrying urgent dispatches that coordinate artillery strikes, even towing light anti-tank guns into position where heavier vehicles bog down. One patrol, led by a young American captain, uses 3 of Bronson's creations to slip behind Italian lines, destroying a fuel dump that leaves a dozen Panzer IVs stranded and burning. The Axis feels the shift. German radio intercepts crackle with frustration. Enemy light vehicles moving freely over soft ground, impossible to pursue. Rommel, in his command half-track, knows the desert's rules have changed. His Afrika Korps, masters of mobility, now chase shadows while Allied scouts dictate the pace. Bronson, back at the forward repair depot, works through the night under arc lights. His crew teaches the method to every incoming mechanic. Deflate for dunes, reinforce with whatever scrap is at hand, keep moving. Even the long-range Desert Group boys, those elite raiders who've been running deep patrols since 1940, take notes. Their Chevrolets and early Jeeps get the canvas wraps, the extra bracing.
One LRDG sergeant, fresh from a 1,000-mile raid, grips Bronson's hand. "You've given us wings in this bloody sand." As the battle reaches its climax, the modifications prove their worth in blood. A scout team pinned by machine gun fire near Ruwesat Ridge calls for extraction. 2 Sand Devils charge in, tires kicking up blinding dust screens, 50 calibers barking from improvised mounts. They scoop the men and race out, leaving the Germans firing into empty air. Casualty evacuation times drop. Wounded reach aid stations alive instead of bleeding out in the dunes. Supplies flow forward uninterrupted. Water, ammo, medical kits, keeping the infantry pushing when exhaustion should have stopped them cold. Rommel orders a fighting withdrawal. His famous last man, last round stand crumbles as fuel runs dry and replacements fail to arrive. The Desert Fox, once untouchable, now retreats toward Libya, his vaunted Panzers reduced to smoking hulks. Bronson watches from a ridge as columns of Allied vehicles stream west, jeeps leading the way like scouts on the frontier. The momentum is unbreakable. One man's field fix, born of desperation and ingenuity, has helped turn the tide. But the war isn't over. Ahead lie the Mareth Line, Tunisia, and the long road to Sicily. Rommel's retreat is just the beginning.